Our next guest is the host of New York's most popular radio call-in program entitled Sexually Speaking. I heard it once originally for 5 minutes. I ended up sitting in the car for the entire show. She also has a daily TV show in the same city where she's known to all as simply Dr. Ruth. And here to tell us about her new book, which is Dr. Ruth's Guide to Good Sex. And let's get right to the point here, is Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Hi. It's so nice to meet you in person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You mean you listen to the radio program for 5 minutes? And then you stayed?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't get out of the car, I mean to tell you. You know, it's a pretty explicit radio show. You don't pull any punches on there.
No. I believe that people have the right to get all of that information that we do have on sex and good sexual functioning, and that we shouldn't beat around the bush. That if we know to help somebody with a sexual problem, we should do that.
Now, you're a wife and mother, right?
That's right.
Were they surprised when you first started doing it?
I was surprised.
You were
because
surprised.
I didn't think that I would talk to 250,000 people, that I would have a television show that has folded in the meantime, but we'll get another one.
It has?
Yes, we'll get another one.
Well, why is it folded?
Just because of money. The headquarters said, it doesn't have enough support
I thought maybe
yet.
because of the fact that it would be a little difficult to do what you do on television as opposed to radio.
No, because I've been even on television in Utah. Can you imagine? The Mormons. And I get phone calls about specific, very down-to-earth sexual questions and relationship questions. And for example, in the book, that's how I'm describing some of the calls and some of the letters.
Which, as it gets back to the thing that they're all explicit, was there ever a question that came into the show that stumped you that you didn't have an answer for, or was just too bizarre?
Well, no, bizarre. You see, it's interesting, Bill. Because of the tone that the program has on radio, I am extremely happy to tell you that I have not had to use that dump button. You know, I could use that if there's a bizarre call and the producer gets it through by not knowing what that call is. I have not had to use it, and it has to do with the respect and affection that the listeners really have for the program. Now, sometimes I get a caller where I have to say right away, I say, this is not something that I can deal with over the air, because what I'm doing is educating. It's not therapy. You can't do therapy over the air, and you can't do therapy in a book. But what you can do very nicely is educate. And that's what I'm doing. So sometimes there's a call where I have to say right away, that's not something, please do go to a counselor.
How did the show all begin anyway?
It was very interesting. I was asked, I'm an academician and a clinician, and I was asked to talk to broadcasters of public affairs programs. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have all of these public affairs program managers for 15 minutes, going to try to fly a balloon. And I said to them, you have a responsibility. Not everybody has the luxury to sit in my classroom. Not everybody reads books. And there's 1.5 million teenagers pregnant without wanting to be pregnant. There's a tremendous amount of sexual illiteracy. People and educated people. It's not just uneducated people who just don't know enough about their body, about functioning, and who don't know how to start relationships. So they are lonely and unhappy. I said to the broadcasters, you have a responsibility to get a program like this on the air. Within 1 week, I was on the air.
What are the most common questions you get?
I get now 50% of relationship questions and 50% of sexual questions. And that's also what I'm doing in the book. 50%, about 50%. Very often people ask, am I normal? For example, a guy asks, my penis seems to me too small. And sometimes all that I can do and all that's needed is to say, next time when you have a good erection, stand in front of the mirror. Look at your penis from in the mirror, and you will have a different perception of your anatomy. I get very many questions from men who are, I see you blushing, don't worry. Bill, I see many questions.
I don't have a problem, I don't.
I never ask a personal question. I get questions from men who are what is called in the scientific sexological language premature ejaculators, who come faster than they want to come, who really ejaculate faster than they want to ejaculate, and they are unhappy about it, and their partners are unhappy about it. get many questions about women who do not have sexual satisfaction. Did you know that 30% of American women, sexually active, either married or in a relationship, don't have sexual satisfaction? They never have an orgasm?
These are the calls you get. People tell you that. Women tell you that.
Absolutely.
This is what you found out.
Absolutely. That's from research, from other people, from Kaplan, Masters and Johnson. But from the empirical observation, because I do a lot of lecturing, and from the questions that I get, I can tell that many people really do have a problem. And we have the knowledge to help them. And we have the ability to help them, not by doing therapy over the air, but by educating. And very often education is enough, and they don't need therapy.
Well, you and your husband must have a great relationship.
That's exactly the type of question that I don't discuss on the air.
No, well, you talk about everybody else's, but you won't talk about your own.
Of course. And I never ask even, I tell you something, Bill. When I teach, for example, I taught a seminar at West Point. I was the shortest instructor on the point. I never ask. I taught a seminar on family life and human sexuality. I never ask a question to students. I never ask who here has had sexual experience, who has had a homosexual experience, who masturbates with which hand. I talk about the issues, but I never ask a person a question. In my office, that's very different. A couple comes to my office within 1 hour. I know exactly how these two people make love. I know who initiates, I know about the lubrication, I know about erection, I know what, I'm asking them what is the problem, and I have to know exactly what they are doing in order to be of help.
How do you know in a relationship and you're having problems in a relationship, sexually?
I would say sometimes it's a good question, Bill. Sometimes it's difficult to know because very often a woman fakes it, and a man cannot fake an erection, but a man can kind of avoid to have sexual intercourse. He can have a headache, he can be tired. There are many, many issues like this. And once a sexual relationship starts to deteriorate, it is time to go for help. But I'll tell you something. In a relationship, sex is not the only thing in a relationship. I only talk about sex because that's the book that I did right now, The Guide on Good Sex, and that's what I'm teaching. There are other things in a relationship. There's trust, and there's companionship, and there's raising of children. But if the relationship is good, and there is a sexual problem, if the woman doesn't have an orgasm, or the man cannot have an erection, or he can have an erection but he can't maintain an erection, that's what a psychosexual therapist, where psychosexual therapists can be of help.
Can you have good sex without love?
Well, yes, you can. I am not saying that you can't. I'm not saying that most people would like that. Most people want to have a relationship. Some liking, some kind of a give and take. But I would not say that sometimes a quickie someplace might not be enjoyable. I'm not advocating it because I'm rather old-fashioned. And I really believe in family life, and I believe in marriage. And I see that we are going to see more people staying in a relationship rather than separating, partly because help is available for problems.
Now, obviously, 15, 20 years ago, there was no way your show would ever be on the air because people just never talked about it out in the open. But obviously, you're very successful about it. You must get the other side of the spectrum, the people that say to you, you're causing the society to be more promiscuous.
Yeah, and to that, all I can say is that I don't believe so, because knowledge and education has never harmed. And what I have to say to these people is, look, we in this society know about contraception, and still we have 1.5 million teenagers pregnant. That's not because of programs like that. That's partly because of ignorance. And it's interesting, I actually get very little flack. I was on television in Utah, in Mormon country.
Yeah,
and I had the questions exactly the way that you are asking me the questions. And no problems. And so I think it depends on how you approach sexuality. That young people are more sexually active than maybe in previous years is probably so. That people have nobody to talk to about a question is very sad.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You are
Dr.
welcome.
Ruth and her guide to good sex. Stay with us, okay? We'll be back with John Machida. Stay with us.